Not hold on. There we are. We're live. Let's go.
All right. Welcome to Over the Ledge Live, the podcast, the number one and some say only political satire show based solely on the Texas legislature. This is the last episode of our second season. Take that, Mike M. Finger, who said Stephanie would never amount to anything in sixth grade. Over the Ledge gives you a behind-the-scenes look at the shenanigans of the Texas legislature by decoding political headlines and legislators' behavior into easy-to-understand single ant jokes. We're just as funny, but not as famous yet. Let's meet our guest tonight. First up, we have our beloved Erin Salinas. Erin is an actor, writer, director, and podcaster with a passion for good times, fun vibes, and the Spurs glory days. You can catch him on his podcast, Shame Watch, or streaming video games on Twitch with The Con Save. Please welcome Erin Salinas.
Howdy, everybody. And slowly learning that I can never leave Over the Ledge because if Stephanie holds a grudge from sixth grade, I can't imagine what it's like in adulthood. So I'm just here to stay.
Wonderful. Good lesson. And Senator, I noticed you and I have the same glasses, which I really love.
Second, we have a very special guest for you, Jasmine Owen, who is our newest number one fan, besides Stephanie's parents and Stephanie's friend, Christina. Jasmine is a policy advisor for a Texas House member, a graduate of UT Austin. She enjoys stand-up paddleboarding and sit-down reading. Welcome, Jasmine Owen.
Thank you. I don't know how my career can progress after this. This is like playing a sold-out Madison Square Garden.
Exactly like that.
See why you're on the show.
Right up there with Eddie Murphy's Raw. Right up there. It's right up there.
Thank you.
Our very special celebrity guest tonight is Kirk Watson. You might know him as Senator from Austin. You might know him as Dean of the Hobby School of Public Affairs. You might know him as Mayor of Austin, or you might know him as Pop, as his granddaughter Effie calls him. But you certainly know him. Please welcome to the show for the sixth time, Senator Kirk Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I couldn't even count to six before I started this. This makes you smarter, doesn't it? Stephanie, is this where I give my speech?
Yes, sir. Please, right now.
Yeah.
We've got 45 minutes for you. No more.
That'll be tight, but we'll run through it.
Okay, look, I told you if you have any announcement to make at any time,
We'll listen to you. Yeah.
We're ready. We're ready for you.
Finally, we have the creator and ruler of the Over the Ledge empire, who needs no introduction, Stephanie. She needs a vacation, Chiarello.
Thank you.
Yay.
Okay, these monologue jokes are going to be short and sweet so we can get to the games. Are you ready? But roar is laughter. A challenge to the Affordable Care Act was struck down by the Supreme Court, a challenge brought by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, among others. Ken reports he's recovering all right from the failure, just like any other Texan does, with a Lone Star, a scenic yacht ride, and some light securities fraud. ERCOT's call for energy conservation this week sent everyone into a tizzy, since didn't Texas lawmakers have all spring to fix the system? Thank goodness they took care of our most immediate threats first, like taking away a women's right to choose and children's right to learn about racism in school. Crisis averted. Oh, I know, these are rough.
Hard to laugh.
Starting September 1st, Texans will be able to carry handguns without licenses or training, thanks to Governor Abbott's signature. This was the first opportunity to make laws safer since El Paso's 2019 shooting, and he made it worse. That's how you know he's getting reelected in 2022. Leave it to a bald white man to fail upward. Yeah. All right. Okay, Texas Democrats broke quorum to block a voter suppression bill. Too bad it's just like a movie when you think you've pushed the bad guy off the cliff, but you turn around and he's still hanging on by a finger. Democrats have appealed their cause to Washington, D.C., and Vice President Kamala responded by sending Rafael and Chia a pair of her finger-stomping stilettos to wear just in case, and certainly not to finish what you started on that cliff and be a man already, Rafael.
I'm not gonna lie. He could probably pull it off. It'd be a good look.
All right, and finally, this is an oldie from earlier in the session. Shortly after the session began, several lawmakers tested positive for COVID-19, forcing colleagues into quarantine. Some are joking that the Capitol is a petri dish, but I've always thought of it more as fine china, designed for the rich and white.
Wow.
Oh,
Whoa.
thank you. And that's it for what's going on in Texas today.
Well done.
Stephanie, I love the way you keep telling jokes even when nobody laughs. You do you, Chiarello. You do you. Okay, audience, let me tell you how this podcast works. On tonight's episode, Erin and Jasmine are competing against each other for the coveted Most Knowledgeable Comedian in Austin award. Comedians, please be aware that you can each phone a friend 3 times if you're stuck on a question. And by friend, we mean Senator Watson. This award is given to the comedian who knows the most about Texas politics, according to the outcome of the games on our show. Stephanie, show the award. She's showing it. Looks good.
Wow.
This is my first time seeing it.
Well, yeah.
Whoever wins gets their picture taken with our special guest, Senator Watson. The senator will post the picture on his social media announcing that the winning comedian is the most knowledgeable comedian in Austin. Stephanie, did we ask the senator if he's okay with this?
No. But that won't be the first time Stephanie has not done it. We've known each other quite a while.
Yeah. It's time I finally tell you what happened to your stapler, sir.
What better way to end our season than a verbal montage of all the games we've played? In Best from the Test, each contestant will get a chance to answer a question we have already asked and answered on a previous episode. Not only are they fighting for most knowledgeable comedian, they're fighting to be Stephanie's #1 BFF.
Obviously.
As always, comedians can ask our special guests for help of a total of 3 times apiece between the 2 games they play. Senator, please feel free to jump in at any time, but otherwise don't give anything away. We really want our comedians to sweat it.
I got high blood pressure. There is no problem in sweating. Trust me. The way ERCOT's going, it's really not going to be a problem.
That's right.
Okay, so this is a little montage. Sorry, Amy.
Yeah, go for it. Now it's time to play Best from the Test.
Best from the
Best
test.
from the test.
So these are questions from every episode, and we started season 2 with an interview with incoming Senator Eckhart, who actually represents Senator Watson's former district. So in the game Promises from that episode, we asked you who said the quote below. Either Greg Abbott, look at this, was the following quote a promise made by the governor, the lieutenant governor, or Speaker Phelan. So Jasmine, we're going to start with you. And the quote is going to be from one of these 3 men. And remember that it was the beginning of session.
Can I just say, please don't fire me if I get anything wrong.
Don't worry. What happens, and if I didn't get fired from Watson's office doing Over the Ledge for you, don't worry, Jasmine, you're safe.
Yeah. Let me just tell you something. That bar, you can't set that bar much lower.
Okay, who said this? We're going to be tackling COVID challenges and ensure better access to health care for all Texans.
I think of the 3, Speaker Phelan is the most reasonable, so I'm going to go with Speaker Phelan.
Good try. That came from Greg Abbott.
No.
Yes.
We just said it.
Yeah, all you got to do is say it. all you need is a microphone and just say it.
Well, that's our quote for this
That's
episode.
politics, baby. That's politics.
Okay, next quote for you, Erin. Lawmakers can have a robust discussion about a Texas solution to Medicaid, one that is revenue neutral.
I think it was Danny Boy, because the word robust seems very theatrical, and he seems like a theatrical cat.
I love the idea, but no, it was Dave Phelan.
Dang it.
I'm very impressed with the enthusiasm of your guests, but not so much the answers. This is neat. What I also love about that quote is, we'll talk about Medicaid, but not if it's going to cost us a dime.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, it would be so much better for our state and our state budget. But if it's going to cost us a dime to get back extra money, Oh, that's not robust to meet the definition.
Maybe we could take donations for Medicaid expansion the same way.
A GoFundMe kind of thing. Like
Mhm.
It's how we fund the rest of healthcare.
That's right.
It is the backbone.
Donations. Okay, we're just kind of pretending that the second episode didn't happen, apparently. We're skipping to our third episode that happened with House Member and Mall Chairman Rafael Anchia, and this is the Texas citizenship game where we ask you some historic trivia. So it's multiple choice. And here we go. Back to you, Jasmine. In what year did Texas secede from the United States? 1836, 1861, 1845, or 2021?
This
And you
feels
can
like a
always ask
trick
the
question. I'm going to phone the senator on this one.
So think about, it's a question about secession. And when did the Civil War begin? Does that help?
You can actually just tell her also.
Oh, I can just say it?
Yeah.
I thought friends help people think through problems. No friends just let them copy off their paper, but okay. Yeah, well, this friend will tell you it's 1861.
That's my final answer.
Very good. You're correct. Very good. Look, he's an extra good friend because he just lets you cheat. That's what you're there for.
Thank you,
You're right.
Senator.
They
My pleasure.
seceded in February. Okay, Erin, how many Texas constitutions are there?
Oh, I remember this one, but I don't remember the answer.
5, 3, 2, or 7?
Because I remember this one too, because I was like, oh shit, there's more than one? Every man. Let's say 5 feels good. Five's a good number. It eases my anxiety. I only put my volume on my radio in numbers that are divisible by 5. So it hasn't let me down, but I have a feeling it will here. So 5, that's my final answer.
The beauty of that answer, Stephanie, is that's the least wrong one, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's second place.
Yeah.
There
Good.
you go.
Look at that. It kind of failed me, but I'll take it.
Yeah. This is actually the 7th one that was drafted in 1876.
Wow.
Wow. And a lot of the politics have not changed.
All right. In our 4th episode, we were joined by TikTok wonders and activists Zane Smith and Holland Freeling. We had just survived Winter Storm Uri, and we had a few questions about ERCOT in our game, ERCOT or not. Jasmine. Oh, ERCOT or not? Here we go. ERCOT stands for Energy Resources Company of Texas. True or false?
False. It's very false.
Good. What does it stand for?
Energy
bonus point.
Reliability Commission of Texas.
Oh, council.
Those
The irony.
interchangeable. That's okay. I don't need the bonus.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
Particularly when you
did
stop
very
with
well.
the fact that the governor and everybody wanted to blame ERCOT for ERCOT, and most folks had never heard of ERCOT, and of course it wasn't really ERCOT's fault. But that's a good answer.
Very
I
good.
learned
Lots
of
of
them this year, and I've been pissed at them all year.
Yeah, but that's not.
Well, there are reasons to be there, but not
Yeah.
not because the way they got called out on this deal.
Yeah, not on them, yeah.
By the way, is everybody's thermostat set to 78?
Yes. And then I walked by a store on South Congress and they had their doors open.
Oh, wow.
Open.
Now, as I sit here, I may look really good and cool and calm and collected, but I
Always.
smell so bad.
All right, Erin. Greg Abbott appeared shaken in his address to Texans on the winter storm and insisted that the buck stops here and he would take complete responsibility for his part in the disaster. True or false?
So I just want to say real quick, in all his interviews that he did, his makeup was terrible. You know, I know we've got some folks who have done years in the Texas Ledge, folks who are all about politics, but you're talking to a theater kid, baby. So I look at the little things like that, And when I saw it, I was like, they need to even you out, sir. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, the neck didn't match the cheeks. It's false because he's not going to take ownership. But yeah, they need I don't know, get that man some Mac, get him something. Little Sephora run.
I'll get a letter right to him. You're right. It's false. He said, wasn't me, repeatedly.
The windmills.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, on our next episode, pollster Jim Henson joined us, and we asked our comedians to analyze questions from recent polls. Okay, so a recent poll asked Texans to identify whose armed forces won the Battle of the Alamo in 1836. So who actually won the Battle of the Alamo? Which one of these is true? Oh, I just gave you the answer. Okay.
I didn't.
Was it the Republic of Texas, the United States of America, the Confederate States of America, or Mexico?
I just want to say all of my civics teachers were athletics coaches to preface this answer. But I'm going to guess the Republic of Texas.
I can.
Yeah? You want to jump in?
It was Mexico.
Yes, Mexico.
That's why you had to. That's why Pee Wee Herman remembered it, because it was trying to get back at.
Oh my!
Get back at them for winning, and yeah, it was. They tried to make it seem like it was like a victory for Texas, but it never. I was surprised in high school too. Like, no.
Yeah,
It was the martyrs. It was the heroes holding on to the. It was very poignant, though. Boy, that's the way to teach a history class, right there.
Yeah, I learned it in song. For 13 days in San Antonio, a small group of Texans held the Alamo. They did it. They died. Crockett, Travis, Bowie. I'm telling you, theater baby.
That's part of the song.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
We should put that in the next stage show.
Senator, were you going to say something? Or just enjoying Erin's song so much?
I'm just not sure what I saw.
Yeah.
I really know how to make myself impressive every time with our guests.
Okay, and note that only 56% of people knew that, so we're right there with them. Okay, this is Erin's question. What is the percentage of voters who prioritize controlling COVID over helping the economy? Was it 37% to COVID versus 43 for economy? 26 COVID, 54 economy, 47 COVID, 43 economy, or 50-50 split?
As if I wasn't already sweaty enough, you gave me the one with the numbers. All right. I'm going to trust that all of these add up to 100 because I'm not going to do that math.
No.
I don't think we'd be that bad for 2654 because I'd imagine that there's, some halfway decent people taking these polls, but I don't have the greatest faith in my state either. But I'm still going to get me a Texas-shaped waffle at a La Quinta. You bet your bottom dollar. I'm going to let's do 37 for 6,000.
All right, you're so close. It was 47%.
Dang it, that's what I meant.
Yes, and apparently 10% of voters didn't even respond, so they didn't quite add up to 100.
That doesn't add up. Yeah, the first one had up to 80.
They just laughed with their MAGA hat on. That was it.
Okay, so we were super excited with Luke Metzger from Environment Texas when he joined us for the environment or whatever, I guess, for our 5th episode. Let's take a look at 2 environmental bills and tell me what they do. HB 520 would require utilities to install this thing X after they dig along state highways. Was it endangered plant species, bluebonnets, the Texas state flower, native and pollinator-friendly plants, or a Buc-ee's billboard? And you can always ask.
I'm just buzzing with excitement.
Oh.
I regret not having TiLo up on my second monitor. Oh, I'm going to guess bluebonnets.
The senator just gave you a little sneaky hint.
A little nudge.
Did you hear him, Jasmine?
I didn't catch it.
He said he was buzzing.
He's buzzing. Oh, okay. Native and pollinator friendly plants.
Yes, correct, Jasmine. However, this bill died in committee, just like her.
They can't give us a damn nice thing, man. I swear.
They just can't. All right, next, House Bill 1683, which prohibits cities from enforcing federal regulations on this thing, could force the city of Austin to close Barton Springs Pool. Does X equal oil and gas, public urination and nudity, masks, or diving boards?
So as long as no one's looking, I can pee, right? Is that what that means?
As long as they don't put that dye in the water that turns it yellow, pink, neon pink when you pee.
I'm gonna say oil and gas because they're always worried about the salamanders and stuff. Salamanders love, salamanders love the pee.
Oh,
Yes.
They
All right, now
love the pee and nudity.
the bill died in the Senate, so no more oil and gas, but you might still have public urination in Barton Springs.
Thank goodness, the real
Absolutely.
issues.
I love the diving board as a potential answer. I had been mayor just a very short period of time. I bet it had been 6 weeks, and they were having the Barton Springs Diving Championship. I marched down there in my bathing suit that, with these little legs hit me just below the knee, and my T-shirt. I read a proclamation about the Barton Springs diving, and then they said, "Aren't you going to dive off the board?" And so I said, "You bet I am." And I marched out to the end of the board, turned around, and did a backflip off the board. By the way, it was a 9.5.
Ooh.
When I got out of the water, the aquatics director came over and says, "Mayor, you can't jump backward off the board." Okay, good.
Really good. I was just testing.
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to make sure you knew those regulations.
I think they've changed that rule.
Well, probably because I went down there and just violated the hell out of it.
Trendsetter, that's what you are.
All right, Carissa Lopez, political director of TFN, joined us to talk about abortion games in our The Cowgirl Handmaid's Tale. Let's ask true-false questions about some abortion bills. Jasmine, Senate Bill 8 allows private citizens to sue abortion providers or anyone who helps someone get an abortion. This person does not have to live in Texas or have any standing in the suit. True or false?
Unfortunately, this is true, and Rep. Slauson stumbled on this question in committee. She said you had to be a Texas resident, and that's false. You can be anybody.
Here's what's going to be interesting to me about that bill. There's a lot that's just horrible, but it's going to be interesting to see if that bill can withstand judicial scrutiny, not because of Roe versus Wade or constitutional rights, but because typically you have to have a harm. You have to have some sort of personal harm. So it's going to be interesting to see how that jurisprudence plays out on the concept of as is put out here in the question, standing.
that gives me some hope.
That's not very funny, but the truth of the matter is these bills just weren't very funny.
So not as my lawyer, but as my good friend. If I wanted to, on day one, file a lawsuit against Greg Abbott because I believe he advised someone to get an abortion, it is totally within my power because of this bill to file a lawsuit against him. And because it's civil court, the judge just has to believe me a little more than not. Like, it's not illegal. No.
You would have to have some evidence, and they could file a motion for summary judgment and probably have the case dismissed if you couldn't provide basic evidence.
But would I get in trouble for filing a lawsuit and then not having enough evidence?
There's also rules against filing what are designated as frivolous lawsuits, and you would need to have something that we'll talk about that offline.
Okay, we'll talk later. Thank you, sir. All right, Erin. House Bill 1280 prohibits abortion in Texas 30 days after the Supreme Court overturns Roe versus Wade and makes it a first-degree felony with a life sentence in prison for any doctor who performs the procedure. True or false?
There's a lot of words in this one. I'm going to take the old standardized test method and think you can't have two trues buddy up to... let's phone a friend or phone a senator. I saw you look.
A friend's not always a senator's not always a friend, but
in this case,
he
he is.
Promises to be.
In this case, it is, and you ought to answer true.
You know what? I'm feeling good with true.
You are correct. Thank you, Representative Capriglione. And then I do want you to know that I think, is this in my notes? That indecency with a child is a misdemeanor and it's only a $10,000 fine.
Really?
Compare these two crimes. All right. I'm going to ask the next question, and then y'all need to talk amongst yourselves because my food just got here and I need to get it inside. All right. Okay, so Joe Jaworski, the Democratic candidate for Attorney General, joined us for, oh, wait, that's my job? Because we know that attorney generals just love suing the federal government, but what are they supposed to do? So I'm going to ask the next question, and then I hope that the senator starts talking about when he ran for attorney general. Jasmine, the attorney general, serves and protects the rights of all citizens and can offer legal advice and or represent private individuals.
Well, I'm going to base this off of the discussions. Am I going to get a Trumpy for this if I bring up William Barr?
I think we've sort of dropped that, but if it relates to the question, we just didn't want to get off track too much.
Okay.
Away from that.
Well, there were talks about, he's America's lawyer, not Trump's lawyer. So I'm going to say this is true.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, he looks like a giant bullfrog. Is that just me? But he's a weird looking guy.
So she answered true. But I'm not sure I understood the rationale and the answer. The argument was you are not Trump's lawyer. You are the people's lawyer.
Yes. So therefore, Ken Paxton should be the people of Texas's lawyer.
And not offer legal advice or represent private individuals, right?
Is it a trick question?
I don't know.
Is it partially true and partially false?
May he do both, serve and protect, and can offer legal advice?
I don't think he can offer legal advice, but I do think he can serve and protect. True. False.
Correct.
Well, she's got the right answer.
Right.
It's false. This is the kind of test you get on the LSAT. This is the kind of test question you get on the bar. It's you can outthink it, and you outthought the question.
Good thing I'm not going to be a lawyer one day.
You're good. It's great, but you did a good job. You were right.
You were right, and you said it with confidence. More than 90%.
Pound the table. Pound the table.
Yeah. This man!
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
You're all out of
Erin,
order.
who has been the longest serving Texas Attorney General in our state's history?
I know this one.
It's
Mr.
still in the
Mac-
lake.
Mr. Matt Cosmetics himself, Governor Greg Abbott.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
You're correct.
I feel particularly bad about that answer since he went into office as a result of the 2002 election, and in that election he beat the Democratic nominee, who was extra bonus points if you can tell who the Democratic nominee was in 2002.
Is it you?
It was me. But here's the good news. If you hadn't known that, you would have been like a great majority of the state was in 2002.
I thought, first of all, imagine a world where Kirk Watson was governor in 2002. Like like we would never have the people who are living in that alternate reality. I'm envious of them.
Well, here's the sad news. If that were to ever have happened, most of the questions you've asked so far, they would have never been made it anywhere in legislation. So you wouldn't have had all these questions. What would you have done?
And here you're making me appreciate Greg Abbott. Why are you doing that? Why?
Oh my goodness.
I think Amy, let's sum it up here so we can
Okay.
get to Pleasant.
So let's see. You guys are tied 4-4.
Oh,
Dang.
Okay, and
Don't worry, Jasmine. I'll mess it up, Jasmine. Don't worry.
Let's see. They've each asked once because Jasmine didn't ask for the other sneaky one. So yeah, you each have 2. Now we finally have a special guest on the show who is known for his tweets and who has more than 100 followers. It's time to play our all-time favorite game, Tweets or Twasn'ts. The comedians will need to decide if the following tweets were really tweeted by Senator Watson, or are they Twasn'ts, just a tweet that Sam wrote in 30 seconds. The comedian who guesses the most tweets correctly will be verified as Senator Watson's #1 Twitter stalker.
All right, Jasmine, back to you.
I gotta say, I did see the look of horror on the senator's face when it was clicking what was happening.
Oh yeah.
Hear your tweets.
Okay.
All right. Did he tweet this or did he Twasn't? Wow. I'm almost embarrassed by how happy and excited I am that football is back. Almost.
Is this American football or is it soccer?
You don't get to ask any questions.
Tweet.
Boss, do you know?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. It's a tweet. Good job.
That's good.
All right. Erin, rode my motorcycle with my dog on the back to the grocery store because I'm a Texan and that's what we do.
I think Senator owns a motorcycle.
Hang on.
Oh, Sturgis. I know Sturgis. Okay. But I think you're this might be trying to throw me off. I don't think you would have your dog on the back. Is there a doggy seats for
I think Stephanie has set the rules that you don't get to ask questions. That is the protection of the senator, is you don't get to ask questions.
But you can.
Let her ask questions at the end of this thing, and that's really me doing something special. So
thank you, sir. Thank you.
I'm gonna say Twasn't.
You're correct. It wasn't a tweet.
Okay.
But how is Doc?
Doc's great. Doc is my bulldog, for those that don't know. And
oh yeah, a bulldog should not be on the back of a motorcycle. Yeah.
Well, he's actually kind of afraid of it.
Wow.
All right, Jasmine. The break actually ends tomorrow. So tonight was a double meat cheeseburger, fries, and maybe something to drink. Don't judge me.
This is so vague.
Is it spring break? Is it session break? Is it?
How did you guys ever take a test at school with these?
I studied.
Oh, is he giving us another clue?
No, when I turned around, I screwed things up.
It's so random. I'm going to say it's a tweet.
It is a tweet. And maybe he can tell us. I don't know what break he was talking about.
I don't remember what break I was talking about.
All right.
But now I'm very hungry.
Okay, Erin. I just ran in this heat. 2 thoughts. Still out of shape? Let's just say that I tell my constituents that I'm way smarter than I really am. Tweet or twasn't?
I'm going to say tweet because I hope one of the interns didn't write this saying that the senator's out of shape. So I'm using my street smarts on this one, so I'm going to say tweet.
All right. Do you remember, boss?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Are you still running around the lake?
I'm walking a bunch, not around the lake. When COVID hit, I picked a route here in the neighborhood. But I'm walking a bunch.
Oh, great. Okay.
I need to get back to running.
Me too, but it's so hot.
All right, Jasmine. Austin fact. You are guaranteed to be in traffic between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Also between 6 p.m. and 3 p.m. South by Southwest.
That's a good one.
6 p.m. to 3 p.m. being the nighttime and when they're all clubbing and partying, right? I have been stuck in traffic during that time, so I'm going to say this is a tweet.
Okay, it wasn't.
No.
See, but I wrote it. So it's between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. and then also the whole rest of the
It's like 24 hours.
Yeah. All right, good try though, Jasmine. See, I captured his voice. That's a win for me.
You did.
Right.
Okay, Erin. I thought I'd miss being state senator, but I just saw that Health and Human Services had a 14-hour marathon out of a meeting that went until 4:00 a.m. today, and now I'm thinking, freedom!
This feels like a Stephanie tweet. Is it? Was it?
It wasn't.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
Good work. Okay, so I guess I only have one left. How many did I do? 3 each? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, where are the standings? I think this last one's the bonus question.
It looks like Erin is ahead by 1 point.
All right, finally, Erin, you're the winner, most knowledgeable.
I done it.
You did it. I, of course, don't know how to take a picture, but smiling. We'll screen save it later. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to give you the bonus one just for fun. And then I'll tell you what it was. Doc put himself in timeout because he's been yelled at so much for wanting to get near granddaughter Effie. She's heard no, Doc, so much that I worry those will be her first words. Tweet. Actual tweet.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yep. He would literally go put himself in a corner because we would yell, no, Doc, no, Doc, no, Doc, no, Doc. And finally he just would go put himself in a corner and just sit there.
Oh. He's so cute. Y'all have to go to his Twitter feed and see Doc.
Okay.
Doc's a special animal. He's a
Maybe
very
put himself in the corner.
What kind of dog?
He's an English bulldog.
That's a bulldog. Now that we've had a little fun reminiscing about our past games this season and learning about our special guest Twitter personality, let us please welcome Senator Kirk Watson.
Hey.
Well, I'm not just saying this, but you are always the best guest.
Oh, God, thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
So let's talk about the breaking news that just happened. I guess that Governor Abbott finally figured out that Over the Ledge exists and that I'm a legislative staffer because he just cut the budget.
Yeah.
He just fired everyone because he didn't know how to just fire me. So my first question is what? And then what? Can you help our people understand what just happened?
Well, first, I'm pleased. We haven't been able to talk to each other much because of the session and me doing other things and that kind of thing. And I've missed seeing you, but it's good to know that you can still figure out how to make it all about you.
Thank you.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
I really thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the governor, for those that don't know, he got angry when at the end of the session, the Democrats in the Texas House were able to stop passage of a bad bill related to voting rights and the ability for people to be able to vote. And the way they did that was on the last night that a bill could be passed, toward the end of the night, they broke quorum. Now, that is one of the rules of the House is you have to have a quorum to operate. So they were following rules that were made available. And we can talk a little bit more about how I feel about doing something like that. But the governor got angry, and so what he threatened to veto Article 10 of the budget, and the budget is made up by various articles, Article 1 through on through, and Article 10 is the section on the legislature. So what he was basically saying is, because he was angry at that, he was going to veto the legislative part of the budget. Now, he ostensibly was doing that because he was angry at the Democratic members that left. But first of all, their salaries are in the Constitution, so they're going to get their salaries because the Constitution. He couldn't veto do it that way. He was vetoing basically a statute with the budget bill. The second part about that is that if you were trying to target somebody, that was to use the gun vernacular, which is a real theme of the session. That was like trying to hit a specific target by using a big old shotgun approach, because what that did is, as you have suggested in the way you asked that question, and we were teasing about it, but it's not funny really, because what it also does is takes out all the salaries of all of the staff. And by the way, not the staff of just Democrats, but the staff of Republicans as well. And it also takes out the salaries of legislative agencies, things like the Legislative Research Library, things like Lege Council, Legislative Council, which does so much work on the drafting of bills and things of that nature. The Texas Sunset Commission. There's a variety of things that this effort. I'm trying.
This temper tantrum.
Yeah, that's another way.
Call it what it is.
Yeah, that's another way of saying it. It has broad repercussions. Now, it seems to me that it's one of those things that you say, and then you can't really back down from. But the word is that when he calls the legislature, and keep in mind, this is the budget that would start in September of this year. We're in the budget that got passed in the 2019 session right now. So this is the legislative session we just got out of is for a budget for the next 2 years. So there's time to repass that. And the word is that what he's going to do is put this on the call for the next special session, which could happen in the early part of July, and allow the legislature to repass Article 10. But it's bigger than just repassing it. It's a bad problem with our separation of powers in a situation where the legislature already, in my view, doesn't have enough oversight over what goes on. And the legislature also sent a pretty strong message, at least the House did, in terms of some of the efforts about what it thought about the governor's power during a pandemic and some of the legislation that was brought up during this session. So it's to my knowledge and to some other knowledge, nothing's been done like this in the history of the state of Texas. And if it's been done in other places, only there are a couple of very rare instances.
Germany.
I was thinking of New Mexico, but
I'm sorry.
But the point being is extraordinarily rare, and it is not it's a bad practice. It really raises a question how this plays out. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to veto your money. That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound right. But the flip side of the coin is true too. What happens if you get into a legislative session and the legislature says, you didn't do what we wanted, so we're not going to budget money for the governor's office. This is just not the way policy ought to be made, and it's not the way the governor ought to do it.
And there's no way to undo this unless you sort of had a really humble governor, right? Because let's say the legislature comes back and they decided that now that we've seen the governor abuse powers like this, I'm going to remove some power from the governor. Well, they'd have to pass a law, and then the governor has veto power.
The governor could veto that. Right.
Yeah, so it will never unless there's a governor who's like, yes, okay, I'm going to let you take away some power, we're stuck.
Well, what we've seen in Texas, and you've heard me say this, Stephanie, you've heard me say it in the office. One of the things that I think is a problem with modern Texas and modern Texas governance is that the system we operate under was basically created back when we were a republic, or just after we were a republic and became a state. And it was at a time when, to get to Austin from Lubbock, it took you a long, long time. And so we didn't want to do this every year. We would just do it once every 2 years. And that way it was less of a burden on getting people from that big old state to the capital in Austin. And by the way, we've been talking about ERCOT and how hot it is. You're working in a building that was unair conditioned at the time. So let's get us out of here, no later than the end of May. Plus we got crops that we have to deal with. So meeting once every 2 years for 140 days is not the way a state with the economy this state has, with the number of people it has. We can't govern like we're a small rural state anymore. We have to govern like we're a modern economy. And when you add to that the inability to oversee, because the legislature is not here except during that period of time, and that used to, during the interim, in my view, there was more work done than there is now. And I can come back to my feelings about that. But what that means is the people don't have anybody that are overseeing these agencies. The governor makes these appointments to these agencies. They're running government on a day-to-day basis, but there's not oversight of what they're doing until you come into the session. And then it's 140 days of on your roller skates, moving as fast as you can, trying to pass a budget, trying to do all the other things. And so you don't get the kind of oversight that we need. That's just a long way of saying that we're not governing for a modern state, and that allows for these kinds of things to be done and not have the working relationships that I think ought to be, that are more in tune with the 21st century governance.
Thank you. Let's talk about, it's a good segue into what did happen during session. Before session started, my current boss said, look, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to pass the budget, we're going to pass COVID relief, and we're going to redistrict, and we're going to get out of here, right? Nobody wants any partisan stuff. We're scared of COVID. We're just going to get the state's business done. And of course, we didn't do any of those things, in fact, and now the governor has, in fact, vetoed part of the budget, and we just have these restrictions on voting rights, restriction on women, this transgender athlete, critical thinking bullshit. Like, what did they mess up because you're not there? I mean, let's turn this back around to you, not me. Is that why we didn't accomplish these?
Well, what is the one obvious difference?
No Kirk Watson.
Yeah. But that being said, there may be some other things too that contribute.
Oh, you're so humble.
Yeah, well, it's you try. But here's the thing. First of all, redistricting, which is a goat rope right now in the state of Texas. Redistricting is something that shoulda, coulda, would have been done, but for the previous presidential administration doing things that meant that we didn't get the numbers on the census count. Probably your viewers all know that what happens is every 10 years you have a decennial census, and then in the legislative session immediately following that census, you have redistricting, where you draw different lines for these House members and for the senators. And it's the one time in a decade that every senator, the next election cycle, every senator is up because everybody's running in a new district. There aren't the staggered terms with 4-year terms and 2-year terms. That being said, we anticipate that he's going to call everybody back probably in October for a session that will do redistricting. But what that means is it creates a little bit of, chaos is probably too strong a word, but confusion and discomfort, because it means that filing deadlines get put off. Filing for the primaries, for the Democratic and Republican primaries, those will get put off because people won't know their districts, or the districts won't even be in existence. COVID, I think, made a huge difference, and it made a difference, I think, on the passage of a lot of these bills that you and I would consider to be bad bills. And here's why: because there was a lot less public participation. There was a lot less ability to have transparency in what was going on at the Capitol. I mean, it's a dream of those that want to ram something through to basically have an excuse to say, we're not letting you in the building. We're not going to have hearings. We're going to limit how we have the hearings that we do have. We're only going to hear a certain number of bills, or a limited number of bills. The press, we're not going to let you on the floor. We're not going to let you in the chamber on the floor. So that what happens is, if you want to ram through some ugly stuff, this was made for it, and a built-in excuse also occurred. So I think that's a big part of why you saw what you saw. The other thing I will say is part of it's redistricting. I think you saw a better session in 2019 in part because 2018, there were some people fearful that the general elections might go more for Democrats. What you saw in the 2018 election, in the statewide elections, was a smaller margin between the Republicans and the Democrats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was kind of like, ooh, we better get our stuff together. So 2019, you had some really good things happen, like HB3, which was a transformational school finance bill, and things of that nature happened. Well, then in 2020, there was the effort to kind of change the House that failed pretty badly. The Democrats tried to change the House. That failed pretty badly. And so then all of a sudden, they come back in 21. They have the ability to be kind of secretive and behind the scenes, but they also have to have the red meat for those new districts they're going to have after redistricting in the 2022 primaries. So I think the potential redistricting also played a role.
Great. You're really raising my spirits. I want to let you know.
Well, this is a comedy show.
Yeah. A dark comedy.
And I'm being as funny as I know how.
So I told you this story earlier, but when you left the Senate to be dean, I got a call from a journalist, and they said, there's a story that a senator is going to make a big announcement. Is it Senator Watson? And I said, no, never. He loves being a senator. He says that every time. Absolutely not. And then it was you. So my first thought was, why aren't we as good of friends as I thought? Tell me about how different this session was for you, watching it from a practitioner perspective or an academic perspective versus being in the building.
Well, it drove me crazy. Just some of my personality difficulties, let's say, don't do well from a distance when I want to be in the middle of a mix. Look, I was when I made the decision to leave the Senate, it was because of the opportunity that I was offered to be the founding dean of a public policy school. And I was very excited, very energetic, very enthusiastic. Is there another E word I can throw in there? I can't believe all three of those.
Effervescent.
Yeah, effervescent. I was very effervescent about the decision. But the truth of the matter is, when I left, as you know, I'd had my 2019 session. I left that I was as happy after that session as I was my very first session. We made great progress on all my government transparency bills. I was on the conference committee on HB3, the bill I just was talking about. Made further progress on my sexual assault legislation and agenda to prevent sexual assault, particularly on college campuses. So quite a bit of other things. I was on the finance committee working on the budget, what we were doing in the area of mental health and the Austin State Hospital, and my goals of seeing Austin State Hospital being, as I've said, an MD Anderson for the brain. Anyway, but this was a great opportunity. But I will admit that it was difficult to watch from a distance, and particularly in the midst of a pandemic, which didn't allow me to move to Houston the way I had planned and see people and do things the way I had planned.
And then you made a decision to not be dean anymore.
Yeah.
Again, journalists are calling me because they know we're super tight, and they're like, "Is something wrong? Is he sick?" And I said no, because I don't know how many people know that you have had a bout of cancer.
Yeah, no, I'm a cancer survivor, but my last treatment of any kind for my cancer was April of 1995, and I'm looking at probably 2 people on this screen right now that maybe weren't even here in 95. Well, yeah, that's how long ago that was. No, I'm well. You know, it's interesting how you say that, and it's interesting that you showed some surveys in the original part of this. I have said that since I'm in politics and public policy, I've done my own unofficial survey of people's reaction to my deciding to not stay in the deanship. And about 10% couldn't have cared less or had weird ideas about what I was up to. About 45% said he's running for another office and he's announcing this week. And by the way, they were very specific in what offices. And then about 45%, they said, "Oh my God, he's got stage 4." And of course, my reaction to those two, he's running for something and he's got stage 4. You can die from either one of those things. But the truth of the matter is that what happened was the job just never became what I had hoped it would be, because people forget I took the job and announced, and then the pandemic hit before I ever got to officially start the job. So I did the job sitting in this room from a distance. So I never really got to get in the job. And what I've been telling people in public policy, and I really believe this strongly, and I think the legislature failed to do some of what I'm getting ready to say, which is from a public policy standpoint, I badly want us to not try to just recreate the past, the pre-COVID past, because we know COVID laid bare some things that are true. I mean, the safety net was in tatters within a week. The disparities in healthcare were revealed almost immediately. A lot of economic problems, including with broadband. And so what I've said is, let's use what happened with COVID for something positive. The COVID moment, I call it. Let's take a break and say, when we come out of this timeout, what can we do from a public policy standpoint to be better? Well, I've decided I'm going to apply that to my personal life. And one of the things that occurred to me very clearly was that in that year of sitting in my house and not going anywhere, but having my grandbaby, Effie, in the bubble with us, where I got to be around her far more than I would have been in Houston, but even far more than I would have been probably had there not been a pandemic and we were in Austin. Things like that, I just decided I'm not as enthusiastic, not as effervescent, and I gave it a year, and I don't know what's next, but I never left Austin, but I'm back, baby.
All right, the last question I was going to ask is, what's next for Kirk Watson? What's next for Texas? And do you think Democrats have any chance to win offices in the next election?
Well,
statewide.
I'll start with the last question, which is that I'm always very optimistic about it, but it's going to require a recognition of a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's going to require that there be a recognition that sometimes when we argue we're making policy, or we're arguing about policy, that we recognize that we can't treat everybody the same. I mean, I think what we saw with the presidential election, particularly in South Texas, ought to be a real lesson in how you approach Hispanic voters in our state. And I could go into a lot more detail, but I remain optimistic, because I think there has to be an opposition that does recognize the kinds of things like health care and what we need in terms of Medicaid expansion and things of that nature. The second part of your question was what's next for Texas. And I think elections matter. And I think that makes a big difference in what's next for Texas. And then what's next for me is I'm happy. I'm healthy. As I've told people, I'm healthy as a horse, a slightly chubby horse, but a horse. I'm happy and I'm healthy, and I'm going to just take a little bit of time and see what comes my direction. I'm not good at sitting still. I'm really bad at sitting still, but I'm going to try to sit still for just a little while and see where things go. And I don't rule out anything, but I don't have any plans right now.
Thank you so much, Senator, for your service and for joining us today.
My pleasure. This is always fun. And thank you, Stephanie.
You bet.
Sounds like we have someone wanting to be our Over the Ledge production assistant.
I'm accepting applications.
Let me put that down on the list of potential.
Well, thank you so much, Erin and Jasmine, and our Over the Ledge benevolent empress, Stephanie. Thank you, Senator Watson, for joining us. And although I was hoping you were going to announce that you're opening a new modern dance improv theater, we'll keep dreaming. Thank you to Stephanie for recording us tonight and making us sound good, and to our lead correspondent intern who worked on tonight's show, Sam Holloman.
All right, as always, thank you, Amy Lowry,
My
for
pleasure.
taking us through this and the entire season. Thank you all very much.
And that's our show. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok as @OverTheLedge. Don't worry, we're taking a short break and we'll be back with season 3 of our podcast in early August 2021.
Woohoo.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye, Mom and Dad.